It doesn't feel as cold. I know that. Last week felt really cold.
Oh man, it was horrible last week. I was like walking around, and of course I swear it was like a change or something. I would have all my layers on, and all of a sudden I'm hot.
Yes.
So I spend all day putting
layering
on.
up and layering off.
It's like, oh my gosh. Make sure my pockets are empty.
235.8.
Ah! I did better than I thought I did.
Exactly. That's great.
And I was a little nervous.
That's the lowest you've been.
Really? Yeah, because last week, or yesterday, I did it, my son's birthday. And so we were going to go to Famous Dave's, and I was very nervous about it because that's mostly meat, you know.
Right.
And I didn't know. Usually when we ordered, we got, have you ever been to Famous Dave's?
I have never been. In the 10 years that I have been here, I have never been to Famous Dave's.
Well, they have one thing where they, you know, you can order like a family type of thing. But what it is they bring the food out on a trash can lid. And everything, you know, granted it's lined with, you know, that paper stuff. But it's a trash can lid, and they have all these different kinds of foods up there. And they just set it, you know, they got a little stand thing, and they set it on there, and you just help yourself, kind of like a family style type of thing.
Oh, the sauces.
And they have like.
So what was all on it?
Oh, we didn't go, but they.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they have like chicken and ribs and cornbread and, you know, about 4 kinds of meats and a couple kinds of breads, and then they got like little salad things and stuff like that, and like coleslaw. And so you just grab whatever you want out of the whole thing, you know, and of course there's usually a lot of leftovers, you know, that kind of thing. So that's usually what we would get. And I was sitting there thinking, I should try to figure out, my brain was like going on overload trying to think of what we could order, because this is where my son wanted to go to eat.
Right.
Well, turns out that we ended up with a plumbing problem in our house, and I had to call my brother-in-law, and he was on his way about the time we were taking off for lunch. So Michael switched and said, let's go to Tea Station, which is the Chinese place that I like to go to because they fix my food the way I like it. And so we ended up going there instead. And the kids ordered all these appetizers, so I got me a little saucer with a little bit of this and that of the appetizers, and basically didn't even eat my meal. I just took the meal home and had like a small portion of it later in the day.
Right.
So I got enough food for about 4 days out of the whole business, you know. But that's what we ended up doing, and then I had water and tea to drink. So it worked out, but I was like a little nervous if I ended up going to Famous Dave's, because that's.
Well, one of the things we talked about, though, Sandra, last week was getting back to an A+ or to an A week versus kind of a B- week.
Yeah.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about that process how did you get back into that, and then the process that you took to implement it.
Well, I went through my recipes and found, you know, like a thing for vegetable soup like thing. And so I made that up, and there's, you know, of course you get a great big pot, and I just put it in little portion things. And so basically I just made sure I had that, my fruit. Try to make that the first things to think about before I think about anything else.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of meat in the house right now, do we? I know I had, you know, like if I had some chicken, you know, like he likes to buy this chicken, and so I'll tear it up and put it in a little cut portion thing, so that way I know how much I can have. You know, and one of those containers is enough for one meal, and that's it, you know. Or Michael might fix a burger, you know, and I'll just have the burger and not everything else that goes with it, you know, that kind of thing. But it's just, you know, resetting my brain back to the way I was eating before.
Was it a big difference?
Resetting my brain, I think, was more the struggle than
Why?
the habit. It's like ever since I had that surgery, everything's out of whack. Does that make sense? And so it was
In
just.
what way?
I don't know. It's just like I couldn't get my brain to go back to the way it was before the surgery. So I think that was part of my problem.
Well, let's talk about this past week then.
Yeah.
How did it feel this past week with what you did?
Oh, I felt great.
What was great about it?
It was just like I felt like I was starting to get my pattern back, my rhythm back. The only other problem I had was like I had, my customer orders coming in, and I don't like to have food around me while I'm working on that, and then it's like, oh, we gotta have it by this time, so taking breaks was a little bit of a problem because I had a rush and I couldn't, I don't like I said, I don't like to have the food around the customer orders.
So if you look over the course of a year,
Mhm.
right, you're 80 pounds, well, you're 78 pounds down. Okay, that's a big number.
Yeah.
Right. If we look at comparatively the surgery, is there any other major event over the past 12 months that would equal the surgery?
What? You thinking of something?
What happened to the house?
Oh, the flood. I forgot about that.
And that was September.
That was the.
Like Liberty
First,
Weekend, wasn't it?
I think it was like the 11th or something.
September 11th. When
Close.
was the surgery?
That was like the 28th of September.
Okay.
That's right. I had like just about 2 weeks to get a room and a bedroom set up for us, type of thing. Actually, less than that, because it was like a week after the flood that I found out that I was having surgery.
So it was the 249, September 11th. You weighed 249 pounds, and that was around the flood.
Yeah.
Surgery was on the 28th.
Mhm.
I saw you on the 9th, and you were 234.
Yeah, and that's when I had that massive.
You had lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, between with all that stuff, it was like
Yeah.
all of a sudden I just dropped all
Right.
that weight and then I gained it all back.
Right. And
Well,
you're only a pound off from where you were.
Uh-huh.
Right. So if we look at it from where you are realistically, right. So over the course of that, you've lost 10 pounds essentially, right? 9 pounds since that time period, right? Because you gained back the weight like you normally would, right? So today you're 235.8. You're literally 1 pound off that mark because you were 234.6, right? So I think what's important to address, and that's where I think you went from one life event to another, right? In a short period of time.
Yeah, it was like no time to even think about it.
Right. There was no time to think about it, right? I think that's an important element to that, right? Because you hit on it. I felt great. I need to get back into a pattern or rhythm. My brain, I couldn't get my brain back into that, right? The point where I was trying to bring up with that is a life event such as anything like that you encountered, surgery, right, unravels psychologically a month's work. It only takes 4 days, right? And I think what's important, if you look back to your time when you went to South Dakota in midsummer, right? You were still able to lose weight, right? Because it was a planned event.
Right.
Right? So you knew how to handle that event. Versus an unplanned event, it derailed you.
Big time.
Right? And the reason why I want to focus on that topic is because that's why people gain back weight. That's the number one reason. Life events, major life events. Right? Because you hit it on the head by saying you couldn't get mentally back in the game. Right?
Right.
Well, there's 2 reasons for that. One, you come off plan, and then you get a little bit of you got to a certain extent reinforcement with how much weight you have lost.
Mhm.
Go to the doctor's office, they reinforce it with positive reinforcement.
Right.
Right? Disbelief, shock, what are you doing, right?
Mhm.
You have also positive reinforcement from clothes. You have
Mhm.
positive reinforcement from others noticing how much weight you've lost,
Mhm.
right? Feeling better, obviously,
Mhm.
right? Compared to where you were,
Yeah.
right? All those positive affirmations and positive reinforcers doesn't really motivate you to continue to change, right? People would think that it would,
Yeah.
right? But you're enjoying the moment.
Yeah, but it's not.
Right? How much more positive reinforcement am I going to get with another 10 pounds?
Yeah.
I've already lost 80. Losing 90, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Right? How much more is that going to change? What's 10 more pounds?
It doesn't look like that much.
Right, right. That's the reason why you had difficulty resetting your brain and getting back into it. Those are the main reasons, right? Yes, you've got some limitations. Yes, we can always say, you know, cold weather inhibited me from getting an exercise. I've got this. We've got the holidays. Those are what we call daily life events that are gonna happen, but they become barriers,
Right.
right? Or what some people like to call excuses, right? Because it's harder to get re-engaged.
Right.
You knew what it took to be engaged to lose the weight. And to be honest, it's not fun.
No.
Right? I understand that. It's
Going
not
to the
fun.
gym and working out is not what I call my main
Right.
fun time.
Right. Eating 800 to 900 calories, not fun. Right? Going to the gym 5 days a week, not fun.
Yeah.
Right? But eating a little bit more here, being a little bit more relaxed here, that's less painful.
Right.
Right? And I can rest on that because I've already lost 70, 80 pounds. Right?
Right.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Right? So like last week when I spoke about you got to get back to an A week.
Yeah.
Right? And you know what it takes to be an A week. Right? That's what you have to do.
Yeah. Oh, and that last week was my first week back to the gym since the surgery too.
So most people will say, well, how do I get myself back into it? What do I do? Well, one, you have to set short-term goal, right? The expectation has to be appropriate, right? And it has to be measurable. So you can say, well, I want to lose 5 pounds next week. Okay, but how are you going to lose 5 pounds next week?
Right.
Right? It's the task, right? It's those specific rhythms and behaviors and patterns, right, and routines that had become disrupted, right? You've got to get back into a routine that's going to facilitate weight loss. Right? For you, you hit it on the head, right? Two big things that I heard you said. One, I researched some recipes. I got to get back to eating low calorie.
Yeah.
Right? Second thing that you did, smaller portions, containers.
Right.
Right? Limited my portions. Right? Those two things, being actively engaged, you've already been doing the logging and all that kind of stuff, but that becomes mundane.
Yeah.
Right? And what I mean by that is that becomes secondary nature. You intuitively have an idea of calories, you intuitively have an idea of portions, but what happens is it's selective, right?
Right.
It's as long as I'm logging, then it looks like I'm moving,
Yeah.
right? But the reality is, as long as you're logging, it's keeping you, it's stagnating you because you're not really doing all the necessary components, all the other components to move forward, right? Self-monitoring, yes, I can be aware of my calories, but you're already aware of your calories.
It becomes too, it's just automatic. You just do it.
Right, and what we do know is portions naturally grow bigger, but you implement it by containing, right? We use the smaller containers.
Yeah, I have little containers, or I bought the little snack bags.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're like half the size of a sandwich bag.
That is, and the reason why I say that is quantifiably changed, right? That's quantifiable change. Versus self-monitoring, you're already doing that. You can adjust the numbers. You can adjust the portions, right? Based on your preference and based upon what you want to see, right? So it becomes subjective, right? Based on your preference and your perception. But the perception of a container, a perception of a bag is universal. If the bag only holds 4 ounces, we know what 4 ounces look like.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You can't log 2 and really eat 4.
Right.
Right? You can't log 4 and really have, or log 8. Well, log 4 but really eat 8.
Right.
Right? So that's my point, is you got back to some very basic components. Research, pre-plan. Second thing, limited my portions, limited my calories by controlling my portions, right? That's what led you to be successful in losing weight. Right? So it's routine. Now, but I think what's important is to evaluate, right, the surgery, evaluate the flood, right? Because life events will happen. Big life events will always happen. It's how do you manage that life event that keeps you moving forward. You did all you needed to do to maintain, right? So I think that's important. Losing weight is far harder than maintaining at this point in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've been able, and I think it's important, you've been able to prove that even with major life events, a massive flood and a surgery, at least I've been able to lose a little bit, right? If not maintain. Right? That's the important element to that.
Yeah.
So if you take that away, if you could hit the reset button and you go back to, we'll say October 15th, mid-month, about 3 weeks post-surgery, what would you have done differently?
Maybe watch the portions more, because I would say more exercise, but I couldn't exercise.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you can't exercise, right?
Probably eat less or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be.
You have to be more stringent on the calories. That is something simple.
That was hard.
Right. But that is something simple that you can implement on any major life change. Right? That's why people gain weight, is because with the ones we do know with, like, for patients to maintain, all the studies have done with thousands of patients, right, to show what are the main variables needed to lose weight or to maintain weight loss, right? Routine physical activity is number one, right? Modest dietary restriction is number two. Right? And if we know the process of weight change, weight loss specifically, you have to consume fewer calories than you burn. If you can't burn more calories, then you have to restrict more calories. That's going to be the basic thing I think that you can take away with any major life event. The easiest thing to do is to restrain when you can't exercise.
That was hard.
That's hard.
And that and the surgery itself just threw my brain out of whack.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it's the medication or what. It's just like the Colonex. I didn't have a problem with that before the surgery, but I was having problems with it after the surgery.
Right.
And I was thinking something with that.
Did you back it down to one pill?
I was doing, before I was doing like one pill a day.
Right.
And then after the surgery, everything was just all kinds of out of whack, and that's when I finally realized, just plus and minus the pills, and that's when I figured out it was the Colonex that was causing the problem.
Okay.
And so before I took one pill through the whole week, and I was like, okay, so this week I did 2 times but they were 2 days apart, and it was okay, started to have a little bit of problem on the second one, but it's one of those that's slowly coming back. And I just think, and I was talking to a friend of mine that surgery does all kinds of weird stuff to your system, and it takes more than a week or two. It could take as long as a year for your system to get back to normal, and I didn't realize it took that long. And it's like, okay, so I just got to be a little more patient with it and be a little more understanding with it.
Right.
And it's been working out. And then I started, I showed you that chart thing last week. I still need to perfect my chart, but this is my little chart thing of every day what my weight was when I went to bed, what my weight was when I got up the next morning.
Yeah, I'm nervous about you weighing twice a day.
Yeah, but that was just one of the so I know what I'm doing at night. I'm now finally, because over here it's like, okay, this is what my goal weight for bedtime is, and I was way above it for a while, and now I'm finally getting below that,
Right.
But it's not forced.
Right. So what I want to see though predominantly is a 1 week change. Right? Don't look for day-to-day change. Right? I know that's hard, right? But you need to look for longitudinal change. Right? So on Sunday, if you weigh 244 at bedtime, then you need to look at Sunday the following week and say, okay, where am I today?
Right.
That's your point of reference.
Yeah.
Right? Anything in between,
it's going to be all over the place.
it's going to be anywhere. It's going to be all over the place unless that weight stabilizes and goes up. Then you can look in between and say, all right, why am I not, why am I not losing weight? And if you see a lot of bouncing around, right, with your weight, and you go up and then you come back down, it's like, okay, I'm going up. Why am I going up? Then I need to go to the specifics of those days.
Yeah.
Right? Why is my weight going up?
Yeah, that's
right?
kind of why I started doing that, trying to. But yeah, that's kind of why I was doing that, and then I was logging, when I took the Colonex, or my tea, or I ate late, or I had Percocet. I had a couple of nights. One of the problems I've been having is right here in my leg, and it's the bone that's hurting. It's just like massive pain, and it's while I'm sleeping, or I'm getting ready for bed or something like that. And that's when it's hurting the worst. And the problem is normally I sleep on my side, but the pain stops if I sleep on my back, but I can't breathe when I sleep on my back. So it's like, so my sleep pattern's been so I've been trying to chart this to figure out what am I doing when, so I have a better idea. And like when my go to bed weight is like, okay, I want it to be here, and it's only going down by 1 point per night instead of where before where I was charting, it's like, okay, this is where I was last night, so tonight I gotta be under that. I wasn't doing that anymore.
Okay.
It's just one of those. It's like 242. Like tonight should be 242 period, and then tomorrow would be 241.9.
Okay.
And it's been going better.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to figure out what am I taking during that day to help me in the line of outside my normal medicine stuff, to help me figure out where am I going with it, that kind of thing. But usually when I see the Percocet, or like yesterday I took ibuprofen, I didn't need the Percocet, but I took ibuprofen during the day because my hip was killing me, and when I got ready for bed my legs started hurting me, so I took ibuprofen at bedtime. So that's the only big difference that I've seen, is for some reason this part of my leg is just hurting, and I don't understand. I started wondering if it might be like the growing pains. How your bones hurt from growing pains. You were saying I actually lose weight in the bone.
Well, you can lose weight, bone density. I mean, obviously, to a certain extent, you do lose bone mass with weight loss. You're predominantly going to lose more muscle weight, right, than you will lose bone density. But there is some evidence that people do lose a little bit of bone density, just because of the gravitational force, right? Like you're 200 pounds, right? So how, at the end of the bones, right, we form our our bone formations are at the ends of the bones, right? And what happens is when you take away the resistance, right, so gravity, right, becomes less, right? You don't have that chronic resistance, and so when you don't have that chronic resistance, then it doesn't produce it doesn't produce as much cells to form more bone, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then it starts to go down a little bit, right? So it's not like all of a sudden you become osteoporotic, by no means.
Okay.
Right? When I say you lose, bone density, you lose, statistically you may lose some bone density. Clinically, that's why it's important to take a calcium magnesium supplement.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, I was just wondering because if that was the cause of the pain.
Probably, yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah, because I know when it was growing pains, even when I was pregnant with my son, I could feel everything. And
a lot of times it's barometric pressure changes that results in joint pain and that kind of stuff.
It could be too. It's just been crazy, but it's been going on for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
This part of my leg has been going on for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, why is it hurting so much?
Now, it could be neuropathy. mean, it could be just a vascular issue,
Uh-huh.
right? So that's the other issue.
I might talk to the doctor about
Right.
that. Okay. Yeah, well, I'm supposed to go in and talk to him anyway, cause, since I got the new CPAP machine, they want me to talk to my doctor about the fact that I'm using it.
Yep.
The insurance company wants it.
Right.
And it's like, I never had to do that before, obviously, you know.
These are new rules.
They get kinda
Outcomes,
dumb.
yeah.
So I figured, well, you know, instead of just making an appointment to go in and say, hi, I'm using my machine,
Right.
I'd rather have a proper reason to do that.
Right.
So I might go talk to him about that while I'm at it, so.
Okay. So
But-
235.5, that's good.
235, I thought it was 238.
I had 235.8.
235.8.
235?
Yeah,
I
235.8.
thought it was, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's good. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think what you have to look at is you are 22 pounds away from 100. Okay? So I don't want you to look at anymore that you've lost 78 pounds or you've lost 80 pounds, right? I want you to look at how much more do I need to get to 100, right? So as of right now, if we look at it from that perspective, that's what you should focus on.
Right.
And that's a huge different mindset, because if you think about it, right, just sit there and think about it, I've lost 78 pounds, I've lost 80 pounds, right? You're looking to the past of how much you've lost,
Right.
versus looking to the future of how much you still need to go,
Right.
right? So that's a huge difference, even though it's a very simple difference, right? It can be a huge difference from a motivation perspective. So I want you to look at the next 22.
Okay.
Right? I need to lose 22 more pounds as of right now to be at 100.
Okay.
Right? It's not that I've lost 88 or 78 to 100. It's I'm 22 from 100.
Okay.
Okay? Because that's where you need to focus.
I'm kind of looking forward to that. It's like,
Okay.
getting there.
Yeah.
It's like, the Shea loss, they've been showing all kinds of different stuff, and Shea remembers meeting me, and just looking at all the changes that have taken place and stuff like that, and every now and then somebody will say, well, how did you do it? And it's like, well, you got all these different choices. Mine, I think, was different than anybody's.
But see, a lot of people are seeing you as you've achieved, you've completed.
Right.
Right. And
but I'm not even close to completion.
Right, and I think that's what's an important element. Yes, you can look and say, hey, that's great, but I still need to get to where I need to go.
Yeah, because
right?
from the beginning I had about 200 pounds to lose.
Right, so what we have to do right now, let's just focus on 22.
Yeah.
Right, 22 pounds. That's the goal.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
All right, so I want to see you next week, because I'm going to be out Christmas week. I don't want to push you out. So I want to keep the ball moving. I want to keep you repeating what you just did this week.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're going to get a payment from each of us today.
Okay.
So that way we were like, were we supposed to pay back? Trying to get our payment straightened out.
Yeah. Let's see here.